evening, and welcome to the Radical Race Series live from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I am James Parfitt, and I'm joined back in the booth by Ewan O'Leary. He took his week's holiday last week, and he's come back here for this absolutely amazing evening of racing. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 4 configurations, 3 in use currently at the moment. The Speedway Oval was active from 1989 to 2013, so they now run the Driver Development Centre Advanced course, the Intermediate course, the Kart course, and of course this course, which is the Grand Prix course itself. And we've got track length of 3.91 kilometers this evening, and as little as 10 turns, and 1 minute 10.53 is currently the best practice time. This is going to be absolutely epic. 20 laps of close racing. The circuit itself broke ground in 1960, opened in 1961, and cost a measly $500,000 to actually make this circuit. Now, in conjunction with major costs of other circuits, that is literally nothing. So this current configuration here for this clockwise Grand Prix circuit has been running from 1961 right through to the present evening. So welcome in Phil across the pond, Pascal Higgling as well, David Walters and Ben Underdown. Thank you so much. But I think it's time we brought the one, the only Ewan into the booth. Good evening, Ewan. How are you, sir?
Good evening, doing very well indeed. Very much looking forward to getting back into the Radical Race Series as we wind down this season with the final few races. It's really getting to the business end, and what a circuit to come to as well, by the way. I absolutely love Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, or Motorsprt, if you like. It's the same thing. Very fast circuit. As you said, not a lot of corners around here, and some strange corner naming, some strange corner numbering, but we are in America, so it's expected. But very fast circuit, a really nice circuit as well to drive. Wonderful flow to it, wonderful rhythm that you can get around here, but very difficult to get into that rhythm on occasion as well, just because of the way that the corners come at you very, very quickly indeed. And as you can see, the rises and falls on your screen right now don't make things easy either.
No, absolutely not. The championship standing to R on your screen. Simon Edwards currently leading the way on 276 points. Mike Busson in second on 244. Still not got that elusive win this season. Ben Underdown in third on 223. Luke Maxwell in fourth on 221. Paul LeMay in fifth on 196. Paul Clark on 193. Michael LeMay on 177, tied with Damien G. Paul Crabb is tied with Graham Brown on 169. David Rollison 157. Jamie Bird on 123, Phil Glover on 120, Dave Dowson on 108, Graham Brown on 107, Phil Jocelyn 103, Oliver Ettridge there on 94. Now beyond that as well, we've got James Child on 86, Scott Lear on 83, he is tied with Darrell Taylor, Seth Brown on 81, Colin Wynn on 72, Austin Gretorix on 62, Dan Webster on 60, Martina Ward 58, Dominic Langway 38, John McCutcheon 26, and Richard Brown is the last one there on the scoreboard. Now, we've been speaking about it for a couple of weeks, and you know, Simon Edwards has gone about his business this season. Mike was leading the championship, still not got the elusive win. He's in second now. He's a good few points behind currently, isn't he, Ewan? And it's going to be tough for Mike now to do really anything about Simon Edwards, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard for Busson now. I think Simon Edwards very much in control of this championship. Busson's sort of inability to just close out a race win so far this season has been a little bit damaging to his prospects in this championship. Let's not forget those point totals, while they are 32 points apart. Simon Edwards does have one of his drop weeks counted within that, because he did score a 0. I believe he maybe didn't start a race. I can't quite remember now. It was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he started.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why, because normally you get points no matter where you finish, even if you only complete one lap or something. So, yeah, I think he didn't start a race, and so that means that only 2 actual scores, if you see, are actually going to be dropped for Simon Edwards, whereas Mike Busson is going to have 3 actual scores dropped, and that's going to lose him even more points, I would imagine, to Simon Edwards. Although Edwards in the races he has been here for has been very consistent and scoring a lot, so maybe it wouldn't work out like that, but we'll wait and see. I'll have more updates on that next week when I've done a bit of maths over the course of the week before next week's race, because as we were saying just before we came on air here, it could be not that far away where Simon Edwards is very much able to clinch this title even early. He has done that in the past, of course, and maybe, I'm not sure if it's mathematically possible here, but by next week, penultimate round, it certainly will be very possible for Simon Edwards to wrap this one up early.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the interesting things for us, us in the championship. Don't forget, we have got 2 more rounds remaining next week. We are at Bathurst for a 12-lap Bathurst race, and then on the 1st of December, it is the final championship race here from Nordschleife as well. So we've got 5 laps of Nordschleife for these guys to contend with, and I think it's really tough because you want to see the fight go down to the end, but you just can't see past Simon's pace at the moment. You know, he has had a stellar season and is flying more and more and more and more, and I just can't see past him for the win. I think it's once the whole drop week, the maths in the background gets all worked out. I just can't see past Simon Edwards, and maybe that's a bit short of me, or maybe I'm underestimating that Mike's going to come through and maybe get the win, or Luke Maxwell's going to cause a problem, take some points off Simon. But at the moment, I just think Simon's got such a strong, confident lead that nobody's going to really get near him. And as I say, maybe I'm being a bit short. I don't know.
I don't think you're too far from the truth, really. It is always difficult to write off drivers like Luke Maxwell, obviously defending champion in this series at the moment, although he is 55 points adrift at this stage in the season. He's got 2 race wins so far, and he's only going to have 1 actual score dropped as well when we do the maths on that. So he may well get a bit closer to Simon Edwards as well, but in my opinion really does need to win these final 3 races, or at least podium in them. And even that might not be good enough. It's certainly within Simon Edwards' control, but this has not been a typical season from Simon Edwards. Typically, when he's won in the previous times that he has been champion, 3 times, of course, he's done it through pure relentlessness and winning every single week and not letting everyone else have a look in. That's not been the case this season. So I would maybe approach these final few races with a bit more caution for Simon Edwards than maybe I would have done in previous seasons where he really has dominated.
Yeah, I think from his point of view, he's done so much. As you say, 3 times champion. This season's been a little bit more of a tighter situation for him. Mike was... He's been almost that nearly man, Ewan, hasn't he? He's nearly been there. He was nearly there in Watkins when we even, tried to not even mention anything, but then he kind of made a mistake into the bus stop and that caused him issues. He's just not quite got there. And I think from Mike's point of view, I think that's where he can look back and say, that's where I lost it. He should have been closer. He should have been wrapping up the wins that he had the opportunities to take, and he just didn't. And for the last 3 rounds with this one as well, I think it's just too big of an order for Luke or Mike or, even Ben Underdown, who's kind of been Mr. Consistent this year, to kind of really put the fight to Simon. I think Simon's got to have a dreadful race here, a dreadful race in Bathurst, and maybe not even finish in Nords for anyone to really kind of get near him.
I wouldn't bank on a particularly good race versus Simon Edwards as well at the Nordside, because he is very strong around there, although Maxwell did push him all the way in last season's race at the Nordside, so you never know. But I wouldn't bank on it, certainly. Bathurst is one of those circuits though where things can go wrong very quickly, and it doesn't have to involve other cars like you would see at other circuits. You can just get things wrong on your own, and the consequences can be pretty bad. So that's going to be one to watch out for Simon Edwards. He's going to be keeping his eyes open through there. There's no doubt about that. But I agree. It's becoming difficult to see how he's going to lose this one. We don't want to jinx him, of course, by saying all this, but he is certainly in the driver's seat in terms of this championship situation. He's just got to do what he can from this point. I don't think these drivers will even have a full handle on quite what the situation is in the championship now. And I do believe actually that iRacing do put the free drop weeks in from round 4, which confused us. But yeah, it's so they maybe have a better idea than us. But even so, it's kind of difficult to work out on the maths when there's drop weeks. Because if you have a bad round, it might not even matter.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we're obviously looking at trying to work out for next week. So we will try and bring you the absolute up-to-date scores from next week if we can. Obviously, it does involve us doing maths, and it can get a little bit complicated, but hopefully we should have that. Now, the difference between the last three races is Motorsprt here, very fast, very flowing, 10 corners, not a lot, plenty of passing opportunities. You've got this long back straight, you've got the tricky turn 2 that could cause a problem, whereas in conjunction to Bathurst, where you've got the corkscrew, you've got the elbow, and then you go on to Nords, which practically you've got every corner because of the high curbs. There's a lot of different variances, and I think if Simon can run away with this one, I think by the time we've worked it all out, I think Simon will be too far ahead to really be come under threat going into the last 2 rounds. But at the same time, where this circuit lends itself to kind of Simon's style, very fast, very flowing, very quick, he's able to control the car how he wants. He can hook it up and put it into the corners without much duress, and he's kind of got this one really as his banker, hasn't he, Ewan? And he can go out, if he can get a good win here, I think by the time they all do get calculated, I think we will end up coming back saying he is champion and he's too far ahead. But as we know, 14 cars on track, anything can happen going down into turn 1 and that run down into 2, because if they don't get the turn 2 correct because of the way the circuit works itself to that left-hander dropping downhill, it could all go wrong. And as we know with the SR10, it's quite weak on the first lap with tyre grip because there doesn't seem to be a lot of it. So they've got a lot to think about, especially on the first lap, really.
Certainly, I mean, this circuit is one of those that, while it's twisty and it's fast, you can overtake around here, so it's going to be difficult for anybody to get away from the front like we've seen Simon Edwards do and some others do in the past. Although I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's a little bit more difficult than you might expect because that long back straight. And it is one of those circuits that does punish mistakes as well. There's not really the runoff on the outside line that maybe you'd want, as Luke Maxwell just puts in that lap time right at the end there to go above Simon Edwards by only 18 thousandths of a second. Very close between the two of them. But I think it's going to be a good fight. There's that long back straight, of course, and mistakes are punished around here. So it's not, in comparison to Bathurst and Northside, obviously, it's very different and it's very, not to say easy, but it's easier than them because most circuits are. But I wouldn't say it's an easy circuit by any stretch of the imagination. It's still going to be a challenge for all of these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Svenja Matheson, welcome in. Awesome combo with SR10 and Motorsprt, absolutely as well. So we're looking forward to this one this evening. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. David Walters, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining me this evening as well. So much love to you all for coming in here as we go into round 10 of this 12-round race season with only 2 races left. And as you can see from the qualifying times, currently on the left-hand side, Luke Maxwell is leading the way. And unless Phil Glover pulls something out absolutely amazing over this next lap, I think this is going to be how it's going to finish, Ewan, to be honest.
Yeah, it's looking quite what you'd expect, really. Maxwell Edwards boosting at the moment, 1, 2, 3. They're obviously the fastest here, and they've got a good half a second over the rest as well. So we are expecting to see them on the podium at the end, but anything can happen in these races as Phil Glover just gets things a little bit wrong out of turn 5. I think. Well, no, it's not. It's turn 3 even. I think it is indeed.
Turn 3.
By the way, these corner numbers are really confusing. Down at the bottom, we've got 5A, 5B, and 5C. For that kind of double apex hairpin. Don't know what that's all about. And the straight has 2 corners within it, which is really bizarre. But as I said, we're in North America. This is Canada. I thought they were a little bit smarter, but no, it's a little bit weird. And so, well, I'm going to have to get my head around that for the next half an hour.
Yeah, I think what we could do is just call that whole combination down on the down at Moss Corner of just turn 5, and then you've got the run up, haven't you, of 6, 7, and 8 up into the S's for 9 and 10. But it is weird how they number, and they do it with numerous amounts of tracks as well, and I think that's going to be one of the things that we've got to look out for. We do see that everybody has completed their qualifying laps, and we still have 1:46 on the clock. Interesting thing for Graham Brown is VR crashed on the final corner. Hopefully Graham will be able to resolve that issue before we start the race. So otherwise, poor old Graham Brown, who's done it. He's been fairly consistent along with Ben Underdown, haven't they? Really, Ben's kind of really shown that he's here. He's not here tonight. There was questions over a long-standing questions going on with him and Mike Bousson, which we won't go into, but it's been quite funny listening to them two in Discord about why Ben's not here on track this evening. So there we go. And don't forget, guys, as well, we go and check out our sponsor, iLounge Racing. Head over to iloungeracing.co.uk for all your sim racing needs. Taking the ease out of sim rigs, they come, they build it for you, they show you what it can do, making sure the aftercare is there as well. So much love to them. So head over to iloungeracing.co.uk. 42 seconds remaining here this evening before we'll be able to bring you up the grid. Put you on the spot, Ewan, and what do we think with that top 3? Who do you think can come out victorious?
I think Maxwell is going to go from the front and take this one purely because I think he needs to versus Simon Edwards. I actually think that Simon Edwards might be a little bit quicker here. He didn't nail his final lap time, but Luke Maxwell certainly did. So Edwards' best time there came in his second lap, which is not often the fastest one, and certainly wasn't there. So Maxwell got the pole, but I think he's just going to be willing to fight for this one very hard indeed. Simon Edwards won't want to throw his car off the road for this race win because he knows he doesn't need to, but I think Maxwell does need to win this race, and even if it is a 5-point gain, it will be a positive thing for him, but we'll wait and see what happens.
Absolutely. So in first place is Luke Maxwell. Second, Simon Edwards. Third, Mike Bousson. Fourth, Seth Brown. Fifth, Graham Brown. Sixth, Damien G. Seventh, Michael LeMay. Eighth, David Rollison. Ninth, Jamie Bird. 10th, Paul Clark. 11th, Paul LeMay. 12th is Phil Glover. And there as well. And then beyond that, we have got the other Phil Jocelyn and the third and final Mr. Brown in the race this evening. Now that alone is going to be interesting, considering we've got 3 Browns, Seth and 2 Grahams here tonight. Not too much for us to compute with, Ewan.
It's a bit of a head scratcher. Well, not a head scratcher. Obviously, they're all called that, obviously, but it's annoying for us and confusing. So we'll try and get through that, but yeah, Seth and Graham Brown, one of the Graham Browns, have qualified very close to each other as well, 4th and 5th off of this start. I just can't see how they can get their way onto the podium. I know that we've seen some strange things in these races, but Maxwell, Edwards and Bousson are so much faster, in my opinion, than the rest here at this particular circuit. If you look at the qualifying times, I just can't see how they can be caught. But then again, I couldn't see how Mike Bousson was going to be caught at Watkins Glen, and then it all went wrong. So you never ever know. Yeah,
poor Mike. Gutted for Mike there, I've got to be honest. He was doing so well, and we didn't pick him up. We left him to his business, and unfortunately he come a cropper in the bus stop. So there we go. So we're just waiting for Graham Brown to get on to the grid. It's whether or not Graham can sort his VR out, and hopefully he'll be able to come back, but I don't think it's looking likely at the moment. All right.
Nope.
No, he's not. All right. Here we go, guys, for tonight's race. 3 laps, 4 laps, 5 laps, And we are green away here with Luke Maxwell leading us off. Simon Edwards on the outside. Mike Bousson currently sitting in third place with Seth Brown. And it's already Maxwell, Edwards and Bousson. 1, 2, 3. Everybody made it away cleanly at the moment as these guys go racing down into turn 3, which is Quebec corner, the right-hander. So far, so good, Ewan. You know, we got away cleanly. That's not a bad start at all.
It's a very good start indeed, and the dream one for Luke Maxwell as well, just to hold on to the lead. I don't think he's expecting seconds of a margin already on lap 1 in this race, but he certainly would have liked to have held on the lead. That is objective 1 complete. Now he's got a very difficult race ahead of him, and not too much positional change really back in the pack. A lot of these drivers staying in the positions that they qualified in really, such as the way and the nature of turn 1 here. Not really a braking zone at all.
No, it is a slight lift and then round. You can see some people that have made positions. Simon Edwards is going to take Luke Maxwell side by side into the S's. Edwards on the left, Maxwell on the right. How's this going to work out as these guys come round turn 9? It's going to be Edwards taking the lead over Maxwell, and he did it in not one of the normal conventional places. He ran that outside line going into 8, which gave him the inside for 9. I don't want to say it, Ewan, and I'm scared. Is this going to be Simon Edwards gone? Do you reckon? Do you think we're going to be seeing him just kind of move away from the field?
Very much could be. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the qualifying times there were not as good as what he could have achieved there, Simon Edwards. That best lap he put in was from his second lap of the 3-lap run. That's how Maxwell got ahead of him, really. I thought he was going to fight for this one a lot harder indeed. Well, he fought for it pretty hard, but there's only so much you can do. I thought that would be too much for Edwards to try and overtake. Obviously, it's not over yet by any means, but Maxwell's got a mountain to climb now. We'll wait and see what the draft is like up the Mario Andretti straight this time around, but it was certainly very powerful for Edwards on that opening lap.
Yeah, it was. The gap's down to about half a second at the moment. It's not coming down. Now it's starting to decrease, so it's within that 4-9 stage there for these guys to be able to really make use of that draft. And Maxwell there is still just sitting behind Simon Edwards, trying to keep on to the back of him as much as he possibly can. Edwards has opened up 6 tenths now, but further back we've got Paul LeMay and David Rolliston having an interesting battle here down for 7th place. You know, Paul again he's had a stellar season, I think. He's got his brother in front of him as well with Michael. And Paul's again been Mr. Consistent. You know, he's done well in the championship. He's currently sitting in 5th place. Yeah, he's some way away from the lead, but I think from Paul's point of view, he can take away this championship and say, actually, do you know what? It's actually been really good.
Yeah, I think so. There'll be a number of drivers really who will be feeling that way about this one. I think it's been a story of seasons going a lot better for some than maybe they expected, and a lot worse for some than others as well as you'd expect. But that was Damien G going very wide through turn 5. We'll call it Moss corner at the bottom of the circuit there, and Michael LeMay is not going to say no to that opportunity by the looks of it. Outside line, but he's pulled alongside very early. A lot of that straight to go. He's got the outside line for turn 8 as well, which is never a wonderful place to be. But it looks like well, no, he's not going to be able to do it. No. Normally, you get the inside for 9 there, and you can get the move done. But LeMay didn't quite, or wasn't quite willing, seemingly, to send it all the way around the outside quite so quickly.
Yeah, I'm just starting to wonder on that one, though, because, as you say, he did pull out very, very early. And I think if he could have held on as best as he can to sit behind him for a little bit longer, maybe that opportunity going into 9, he would have been a little bit further ahead. But unfortunately for him, he's now come under attack from David Rolliston. So David Rolliston there, currently sitting in 7th place. So he's kind of the Rollo sandwich between the two LeMays currently, with Michael in the front and Paul behind him, chasing him down as well. The gap up front is still 6 tenths. Bousson still 4 tenths back. Don't panic. We will keep an eye on it as these guys go flooding around Moss Corner, turn 5 here this evening.
And this is where the action really is. As a result of Damien G going wide last lap, he's really started to back up this group a little bit. Now it's all getting very interesting. They're very much close enough to make a difference with the slipstream into turn 8, but nobody's really wanting to. Yeah, no move there from Jamie Bird, who was closest to Paul LeMay there. Wasn't able to do it, and you can see him looking up the inside at turn at 9 as well, but you really do need to be very close to manage that. So he stays behind just for the moment, and this group will continue to fight over the top 5, but it does look like the other positions are entirely gone.
Yeah, I think 1, 2 and 3 is really dependent on what will happen. Now, Mike Busson's just done the fastest lap on a race on a 1:11.23. Don't forget, he is behind these two, so the draft is strong for Mike at the moment. The problem for Luke is he still cannot get close enough to Edwards going into turn 5 to really make a difference on this run up to turn 8 and 9. Now, the SS section at the end, they have got this very long run up. He's got to get it down like Busson has, because when Busson's within that 4 tenths gap, he closes right onto the back of Maxwell. You can see his time coming down on the left-hand side. It's already down to 3 tenths. Maxwell's improvement on Edwards, however, there isn't any. He's just too far back, and I think Maxwell's really got to kind of try and push the limits a little bit more now, because obviously he can see he's not quick enough, Ewan, but he's got to try and... I don't want to say overdrive the car, because as we've seen, that can lead to mistakes, but he's got to try something now, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's difficult to see how these top 3 really are going to change positions from here on in, because they're also rooted in those positions right now. Edwards just quick enough to keep Maxwell at bay. He's really being held in by the slipstream at the moment, I think, is Maxwell. And Busson not quite close enough to make a move on Maxwell right now, so does need to find something extra if he possibly can. But I don't know where that's going to come from as of right now. And there's a similar situation back here. Oh, dear.
Whoa. Well, he managed to hold it. Nobody else got collected of it. Phil Jocelyn has been off track. We'll have a look back at that one very, very shortly. But from David Rolliston's point of view, oh, he got tagged by Phil Glover on there.
That's the second part to this. That we saw the spin at turn 3. There was a second part to this. I'm not sure why Rolliston was going quite so slowly on the run down towards turn 4 there.
This is the end,
I don't know why, but did just get slightly nudged there by Phil Glover and sent around, and that'll be the end of Rolliston's day by the looks of things, along with Phil Jocelyn and well, one of the Browns.
Yeah. Graham Brown is obviously Graham with his VR. There is Phil, all on his own, mind you. Oh, hits the barrier and then jumps straight into the pits. So that is Phil Jocelyn going to be done there this evening. But we go back into the action here with Busson and Maxwell. These two are looking really in what we're expecting here. I think these two are the only two that are really kind of looking at possibly swapping positions, because Edwards at 8 tenths, they can't get near him, where Busson can close to Maxwell, and he's got to really try and take this second position away to try and give himself any form of chance in the championship. You know, we know Mike, he loves a good second place, and he managed to lead the championship by just doing second places, but he needs more, but I don't think he's got any raw pace now to match Edwards, and I think he might get Maxwell, don't get me wrong, but I can't see Edwards getting into the grasp of Busson.
I can't either, and I'm not entirely sure if Maxwell is going to be under threat from Busson either here, really. I think while Busson maybe is a little bit quicker, he doesn't have quite that extra little bit of pace that you need just to jump over the guy in front of you. He just needs that little bit more, and while he is maybe a bit quicker, he doesn't quite have enough right now. To be able to get through. We'll see if that changes, of course. We are still in the first half of this race, but it's not looking likely for Busson at the moment. We have seen tyres fall off late on, of course, as well in some of these races, so that could very much happen to any one of these three, and then all bets are off, really. But as of this situation right now, I can't really see it changing too drastically from what we saw basically in qualifying.
Yeah, no, he's not making any real gains. However, Phil Glover is up into 8th place. Now, Phil isn't able to join us this evening in the booth like he normally does, give us a rundown why he's driving. He has unfortunately got no mic. Graham Brown is under attack from Jamie Bird. Jamie's looking at sending it up the inside of 8 here. Can he go around the outside of 9 and take the inside for the last corner? He does. That's kind of the opposite way round of what we expect going into there, because normally it's the kind of the other way, isn't it? It's the outside of 8, inside of 9, but he kind of went the other way.
Well, yeah, I think the main reason for that is because you very rarely get the inside at 8 as the driver that's trying to overtake, unless obviously it's a position that both drivers know is going to change anyway, and there's no point fighting over it. You very rarely see the driver actually on the outside line. Sorry, on the inside there when you're trying to make an overtake. It's always protected by the driver in front. But yeah, outside of 8, inside at 9 is normally the way to go, and it's the way that Maxwell's going to have to do it if he gets a little bit closer. He's had a good lap here. I don't know whether Edwards has had a mistake, but I think Maxwell's just had a good lap because look at the way that he's gotten rid of Mike Bousson as well. Nearly 8 tenths of a second as they get towards the end of that straight there. Maxwell with a very good lap, but it is difficult to follow in this final few corners.
Yeah, I think Maxwell may have had an error there. It looked like he may have made a mistake going into Moss because all of a sudden Maxwell's time absolutely plummeted down. Maxwell seems to be still slower than Edwards, which it seems a little bit bizarre when we look at it, the fact that Maxwell's managed to close right up to the back of Edwards. So maybe Edwards made a mistake, but was that considerably quicker that he didn't actually affect his time? So a little bit of a weird situation when you kind of think about it. But yeah, Maxwell now, it seems to be closing in on Edwards and slowly dropping off the back. Is Mike Bousson currently out at 5 tenths as these guys are going up into the hill. Into turn 5. Very tricky corner, isn't it, really, that turn 5? I've driven it myself, Ewan. It doesn't always like me, I've got to be honest. There are times when I've ventured off various parts of that corner. But it's very tricky, partly due to the fact that it's a kind of uphill, off-camber, blind corner all at the same time.
Yeah, it is very tricky, but a number of these corners are really. The undulations and the elevation changes throughout the circuit make it very, very difficult indeed. I feel like the most obvious example of that being a real problem is at turn 2, when you're kind of going off the edge of a cliff down there and you have to turn into a corner that you can't see yet. We're about to see it on board here, and we're really low, of course, here. This is the view that the drivers will have on board with Mike Bousson. You can't see where the corner is. I still can't see it. Oh, we're there now, and now I can see it. So it's very, very tricky. You've just got to know where those apexes are, and that sun is really badly placed.
Yeah, very not in a good place currently is the sun. It's currently 8 o'clock in the morning, 23 degrees track temperature. So the guys are battling the morning sunrise right in their face, and we have gone back in time. It's April the 1st, and I do love a bit of time travel within iRacing. But as you can see here, we're on board with Mike Bousson, and he's closing up into the back of Maxwell. Maxwell's closing onto the back of Edwards as well. Is this that tyre management phase that we see from Edwards sometimes, where he kind of, the gap comes down because he's managing, and then in the last third he kind of pushes away again, which is what we've seen previously, you know, because this kind of seems to be a little bit more of a routine that we're seeing from Edwards, really.
It's difficult to say quite what the tyre situation with these drivers is right now. It obviously becomes very apparent when they get to the end of the race and suddenly we see someone lose pace dramatically. We obviously know what's happened there. At this end of the race, it's pretty hard to work out quite what's going on with these drivers' tyres. It does seem, though, that Simon Edwards is controlling the race from the front. It doesn't seem like he's under too much pressure right now. He's just controlling this one. He's you know, let Maxwell get close enough to obviously benefit from the slipstream and get us a little bit excited, but he's not actually let Maxwell even attempt an overtake just for the moment, and I feel that is down to Edwards just controlling this race, but there is still a fair way to go.
And there was a fair amount of rear slip from Simon Edwards going up through 5 there. That's going to allow Maxwell to be closer than probably he's ever been. He's got the gap down to under 2 tenths and is now coming down, absolutely falling like an elevator with no brakes, and he's now got it down. Oh, it's back out to 4 tenths. So it seems that Edwards has got turn 8 wrapped up. He seems to be a lot quicker, but then Maxwell comes back. Edwards comes back again in the middle sector through 2 and 3 and 4, and that Maxwell gets him up the run from 5, 6 and 7. But then Edwards starts again in 8, 9 and 10. It's like they're jostling backwards and forwards. You know, it's like you're watching a tactical boxing match here between these two absolutely amazing drivers.
Yeah, it's fascinating at the moment, even though there's not actually that much happening, I suppose, between the two. It is a good watch for now, because there's a lot of tension up here with these front three, and it's certainly not over in terms of this conversation for the race win. 6 laps to go when we get to the line, just about a third of the race remaining. And that the final third is where things really are going to happen here for this race win. I think either Simon Edwards is going to get away and he's going to win by a few seconds, or Maxwell is going to push him all the way to the end. And I'm hoping it's going to be the latter for pure entertainment purposes, because that would be very exciting indeed. As I think that's Paul LeMay maybe who's gone off the road and dropped a couple of places.
Yeah, there was Michael went off here. So there is Michael in turn 5, runs a little bit wide. That's Phil Glover and Paul Clark saying thank you very much. We will have them places away from you. And now Graham Brown has gone past Michael LeMay as well. So Michael, within the space of a few corners and a straight, has dropped down quite a lot to positions. It's 5 positions he's dropped down due to that run into 5. But in all honesty, that's easily done, isn't it? because of the nature of that corner. I don't think we're watching anything from Michael LeMay on the replay that we probably haven't seen from very experienced drivers.
As you were saying earlier, it's a really difficult corner with the way that it kind of ramps up towards the apex there. And then it kind of falls away through the middle. Normally you see the issues through the middle, really, but if you get things wrong at the start, there's no way of pulling it back. No. It's another one of those corners, as we're about to see, that you can't really see where you're going. In any car, it's not just a radical thing. Obviously, turn 4, it's flat out, so you don't really need to worry about the fact you can't see where you're going there. But you've got to get on the brakes early enough here to not shoot off on the outside. And as I mentioned, Michael LeMay just broke that a slight bit too late on that last time around. And there's nothing you can do to rectify it once you're there. You've just got to kind of take your medicine.
Right, okay, so here we go again now, coming down into what is lap 14, coming towards the end of 15, and these guys are now closer than ever. This is where it's going to be, and this is where it's going to happen, I think, with these 3 guys. It's either going to go one way. The racing's going to be clean, or it's going to go wrong. And what are we hoping? You know, from our perspective, we love good, clean racing, but there's always an opportunity where it could go wrong, and we don't really want to see it. But boy, oh boy, does it bring action.
It is. It's getting a lot closer as we just cut back to that shot there. The 3 of them were very close, and all of a sudden Simon Edwards is under a lot of pressure here. He knows it. He's weaving around trying to break the slipstream, but there's nothing he can do here. Maxwell's going to be on the back of him and round the outside of him at turn 8 here, by the looks of it. Here he goes. He's just going to pull alongside. Booston's going to watch him behind, and look at the way Maxwell throws that one in. He threw that right around the outside. Full commitment. And Simon Edwards could do nothing.
Yeah, it's now back on to the hands of Simon Edwards. What is he going to be doing here? This brightly coloured SR10 sandwiched between these 2 amazing yellow machines at the hands of Luke Maxwell and Mike Bousson. Is this going to be Edwards now looking at coming back and doing the same thing that Maxwell did to him up that back straight? Because really, in hindsight, that's what he's got to do, but he doesn't look like, if we could jump on board here with Mike, he doesn't look like he's got the speed into 5, but he's kind of got it wrapped up everywhere else, and it seems to be a difficult one here because the gap does come down like it is now. Oh, Maxwell's gone! Oh, Maxwell!
He had it in his hands. He had that race in his hands, and he's just seen it slip through his fingers. It's going to be between Bouston and Edwards now by the looks of things, but Simon Edwards seems to be just falling off a bit of a cliff here in these final moments with these tyres, maybe not entirely sure. Bouston's going to challenge him, and he's taken notes from what Maxwell did, but so has Edwards. He's gotten slightly better at defending that move, and so stays in front for now.
Oh, poor Luke Maxwell. The lead was his. The race looked like it could have been his all in all. And then turn 5, as we were mentioning, literally, I think the lap before, wasn't we, with Michael LeMay, just how difficult that corner is. And if Luke Maxwell, nearly 4.2k, can get it wrong, anyone can get it wrong. And I think this is where he's now going to pay this difference. Bousson knows he can get close to Edwards up into 5. But he's got to get that exit, and you can't put the power down too early because you're going to spin it up and you're not going to go anywhere. And if he goes too late, he's not going to get the run out. So it's a fine balance. I think that's what I'm trying to say here, but between being able to get the move done going into 8 and not doing it into 8 like you did on the last lap.
Yeah, we'll see what happens now. I think as a result of getting overtaken last time, Simon Edwards has gotten a bit better at defending this one. But Mike Bousson has also seen it done by Luke Maxwell. He knows it's possible. Outside line at turn 8. He's broken. He didn't quite throw it around the outside quite as much. I just wonder whether he doesn't quite have... Well, he's got a little bit less aerodynamics maybe on that radical compared to Edwards, because he's not quite able to stick it around the outside as Luke Maxwell was a little bit earlier. I also don't think Bousson is as quick as Maxwell, so that's making his life a little bit more difficult as well. But if this continues, if Simon Edwards just continues at this pace, he can defend quite easily into turn 8 here, really, and hold on for the win. Bousson's got to think of some other way to try and get through.
Yeah, I think Maxwell running slightly wide there could give him his own way of basically being able to try and get past, because it did look like Edwards got a little bit out of shape running around, currently down at the back end of Quebec corner in turn 3. That's closed Bousson right up again. Bousson now takes a completely different line from Edwards. Edwards tightens it up. Bousson lets it run a little bit wide into the entrance into 5. He's hoping to get this speed and this slipstream again. And I think from Bousson's point of view, I wouldn't be looking to try and pull out so early if I can get close enough. If I feel I can't, I would stay there through the S's and try and get that exit out at the last corner, because I think from his point of view now, he seemingly can't get that outside line to work for him. So he's got to hope he can get Edwards off the inside. But again, that's going to be tough in his own right. It's like trying to move an immovable object almost.
It's going to be really hard for Mike Bousson here on this final lap, which we now see come up for these drivers. He's got to find a way through. He closes in through turn 1. There's nowhere to use it. Simon Edwards gets good drive off of these corners. He's slow on the way in than Bousson, but he is getting on the power earlier, and he's getting out of them a little bit better. You can see him pushing all the way to the outside at turn 2 as well. Has a bit of a defence into turn 3, which wasn't really necessary. And now he's going to, well, not go a little bit wide, but Bousson takes a really narrow exit, and now he's got to line himself up. He's got to have the best turn 5 he's ever had. Edwards there just taking a little bit of a different line. Bousson goes wider. He tries to get the exit. He was very quick through the middle of the corner. Was he good enough off the exit there? I'm not quite so sure.
No, that little run out onto that little deep part of the curb and then onto the grass. I think that is it. I think this is it. This is Edwards' race to lose as he's going now into the final few corners here. Simon Edwards, I think, is going to wrap it up. That exit on out of 5 for Bousson jeopardized him going round. Can he just absolutely send it? Is he going to be looking at sending it? He's not. He's going to go for the exit out of the last corner. These guys are going to be running down to the line, and I think it is going to be Simon Edwards. It is. Edwards takes the victory here tonight. Mike Bousson second and Luke Maxwell third. It was that exit out of 5 on the last lap that didn't quite get where Bousson needed to be.
Absolutely, he didn't quite get it quite good enough. Edwards was able to hold on, and look at that, Luke Maxwell was only a second behind the 2 at the end. He was without doubt quickest in that race, but that one mistake saw it all fall away from him. Has his championship chances also gone away with that as well? We'll have to wait and see on that one, but it's another big step forward for a 3-time champion.
Yeah, absolutely as well. We will show you the results of the race here tonight. And I think you have to admit, from these front 3, it was absolutely epic. So here are the final results of tonight's race. Simon Edwards is in first, Mike Bousson second, Luke Maxwell third, Seth Brown fourth, Damien G fifth, Phil Glover sixth, Paul Clark in seventh, Graham Brown eighth, Michael LeMay ninth, Paul LeMay in 10th. So Paul went off. We'll have a look back at that very quickly in a minute. Jamie Bird in 11th. David Rolleston down in 12th. Phil Jocelyn 13th. But Graham Brown didn't take the start. Has been in YouTube chat. VR is completely dead. So his words, not mine. And let's have a look back at what Paul LeMay did to drop him down the order even further. Oh, he did the same as his brother.
5.
Yeah.
5 again. Claiming another victim. Oh, and claiming even worse, actually, this time. Went all the way around and goes for a spin to get back going again. But, yeah, turn 5 has been a real sticking point for these drivers here today. It's broke some races. We saw with Luke Maxwell and the LeMays as well. Both off there. And it broke Mike Bousson's a little bit as well. And we've got to give credit to Simon Edwards as well, to be fair. He did the business out of turn 5 as well. It's not as if he drove badly in that race.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to try and have a chat with Luke if we can and Mike, and we'll see, get Simon in here as well, get the top three, and be able to have a chat with them, because I think it's been a race that we absolutely need to have a talk to them, and we are already with the one and only Luke Maxwell into the booth. Good evening, Luke. How are you, sir? And welcome in.
Cheers. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm a bit disappointed with myself there, to be honest. I had the tyres left, and that's the left rear's been going in practice for everyone this week. So it was just trying to keep it cool, and work it behind Simon and thinking his tyres are bound to go off soon. And as soon as they did, he stuffed it. So yeah.
But the weirdest thing is, we were just talking about that corner the lap before with Michael LeMay. LeMay did the same thing. He went in deep, ran wide. It just had to trickle around the gravel. And we were saying how difficult it was. And then we were kind of discussing about how hopefully wasn't going to have that problem for the top three. And then there you are.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've done a fair bit of practice this week because I've not driven and raced here very much. But yeah, I kind of had that corner licked. I thought, yeah, I've got the line in. I've got getting on the brakes early enough to get stopped. But I just had a moment of madness trying to pull away from Simon, I think, and yeah, cooked it. But podium, it's not too bad. I can't complain. I managed to get going again, which is the main thing.
All right, so final question for me. What's your hopes now going into the last two races? We haven't really got easy tracks. You've got Bathurst and Nordschleife just to top it off. So what's the Luke Maxwell plan of action for them two races?
As fast as I can and try and win both of them. That's all I've got, really. I think Simon's going to be quick as usual, so I think it's a long shot now for the championship from where I was kind of a few weeks back. But I'll keep pushing and see where we end up.
Awesome.
Good tracks, I like them. So
yeah, this should be good for everybody, including the race in here, Luke. So is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before you leave the booth this evening?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Matt and Pierre, my golf buddies.
Oh well, there you go. Evening, Matt and Pierre. So there you go. Thank you, Luke, for joining us in the booth, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Bathurst.
Cheers, guys. All the best.
Take care. Right, let's have a discussion with our second place man of the season. He's had more second places than anyone, hasn't quite got the win as of yet, but I'm sure it will come either at Bathurst or Nords, and that is Mike Bousson. Good evening, Mike. How are you, sir?
Evening. Very well, very well. Yourself?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very good. I've watched some great racing. So, hold on. So from your perspective, tell us how the race went.
I definitely with Simon, probably Luke. I expected them to run a lot less downforce probably than me, but I thought myself, I'll go for the long haul and just wait patiently, because I generally hold the tyres very well towards the end, and I thought myself, I'll go for it at the end. Like I said to Simon, if I hadn't had such a bad couple of weeks in results, I would have gone all out for it, but I just needed to get that second place.
Is that a confidence booster, Mike? Is that the confidence booster you needed going into Bathurst and Nordschleife? Because, they're not easy tracks, and you may have been low because of the few, as you say, bad weeks you'd had previously.
Yeah, 100%. I know this is not real world racing, but it did put me in a very dark place for a little bit when it came to iRacing. And so, yes, it's the pick-me-up I needed, to be brutally honest. And I'm back.
Hopefully you are, David. Well, you are back because you're back in your second place, which is great to see. David Waters is in chat and he says, Mike's got this. There you go. Big dose of confidence.
If I could have gone around the outside, but like I said, I just needed to finish a race.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, as always, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before you leave the booth this evening?
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm going to have a GoFundMe page set up for Ben Underdown, because obviously times are very hard in his household, and he can't even afford to buy a brilliant track like this. So, lads, I'm going to put the page up. We're going to have a whip round for him.
I should have known this was going to come. I knew it was something was going to happen there as well.
it.
But, well, post the link. We'll look forward to seeing that up.
That's it. At least I had something for you tonight.
Yes, you very much did.
Right, boys.
Take care, buddy, and I look forward to seeing you
Catch you
next week. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Right, we got Simon Edwards in chat this evening. Simon is your victor tonight. Simon, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I think I sort of half looked into that one.
Yeah, Luke looked very, very quick. He looked almost the quickest on track, to be fair. Got the move done on you and then made that mistake into 5. But, you know, he wasn't the only one. There was Paul LeMay, Michael LeMay. Had all done the same thing. But you took the opportunity when you needed to.
Yeah, I was sort of hoping that once he got past me that his car would switch from understeering behind me to oversteering, and he would have troubles with the rear tyres. Now, I don't know if that's what sent him off, but he looked okay when he was driving away from me. So I think it was just bad luck pushing, because I think I had less downforce on him because I got straight. I was on the first lap. I got such a good run on him.
Mm. Well, absolutely there as well. But then you go from having that battle into the last third where you're having another battle with Mike Bousson.
Yeah. I think Mike was being pretty gentle there. I think he was a bit afraid of not finishing again.
He was. So he just said.
Yeah. I think the outside line is the better line. Well, certainly in this car, it felt that way. So I only wanted to defend the inside because I didn't want to be taken out, if you know what I mean. If they drifted wide, they would take me out, which I nearly did to Luke, to be honest with you, when he went past me. I understeered right, and I managed to just squeeze in behind him before I clipped him. So, yeah, I think that's one that I'll thank my lucky stars for. But I've got good pace around here. You know, I don't think the win was a full gift, but it was certainly luck there.
Yeah, well, you took the opportunity when it arose, Simon, and that's all that matters. Moving on into Bathurst next week and then finishing off at Nordschleife. 2 difficult circuits again. What's the Simon Edwards plan for them two?
Well, I did win my split in the 12 hours of Bathurst, so I know the track quite well. And it's one of my favourites, really, because it's such a diverse track, you know, such a fast end to it and such a slow middle bit, which is difficult to sort of set up for, but I'll have a go.
No. Do what you need to do there, buddy. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before you leave the booth this evening?
I'm going to give a shout out to Luke, because that race was his. It was just bad luck. It's just Moss gets people, and it can get you at any time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sad for that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Simon, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, you too.
Right, so we're going to round off the last interview this evening with Mr. Phil Glover, who's jumped into the booth. Phil wasn't available throughout the race for his normal chat, but Phil, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. Phil? Phil, are you there? Hold on, while we just see if Phil can sort his issues out. Nope, unfortunately, we won't be able to get a chat with Phil Glover, so we'll bring Ewan back into the booth. That summed it up, really, for Mike Ewan. He didn't quite attack as he really should have done. Simon's admitted the outside line was quicker. Mike's admitted he was just there for the points.
Yeah, and it does surprise me because, after all, the only person ahead of Mike Bousson on points is Simon Edwards, so it's all well and good banking the points, but when you're still losing to the only driver in front of you, then I would have, well, it's so easy for me to say, isn't it? I would have taken the risk if I was in that position, as if I'd ever be anywhere near Simon Edwards, but anyway, but look, I feel like maybe he could have gone for it, maybe he realises that as well. Don't want to be too harsh, but though, because it was a long race, it was a difficult race, and he's still got another second place, and after all, Mike Bousson hasn't exactly He hasn't won that yet this season, but he's built a nice points tally through races like today, where maybe he could have taken more risks than he did, and maybe could have been a bit more aggressive. And it's easy to say that from the outside, but he's built his points tally based on races like this, and so he's continuing with that. With 2 rounds to go, he just needs something special now, as does everybody, because I do believe Simon Edwards is pretty close, really, to becoming a 4-time champion.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you sort of what Mike sort of really needs to do, and I think you've just summed it up. He's kind of got to just go out and get as maximum points he can. But as you said, he isn't real life racing, but yet his confidence still wasn't quite there after his few bad weeks. And I think from his point of view, he needed that going into Bathurst. He needed that second place to be able to bump his confidence up, ready to attack. Maybe we might see a different attacking Mike Buson next time out.
Absolutely, and that would be nice to see, of course. But yeah, who knows really? We certainly have seen through the mid part of the season he has had a bit of a wobble, and those consistent finishes started to turn a bit inconsistent, really, and it might have cost him a shot at the title in the end. But yeah, as I say, he's built a points tally based on being consistent. That's exactly what he was here today. It's another load of points for him, another 35 added to his tally. So can't be complaining about that too much. And maybe we will see that race win in these final 2 weeks. It's going to be very hard for him because they're hard races, but you never ever know.
Yeah, and well, guys, hopefully we might see it this season, but that is now rounding out tonight's broadcast. And what an absolutely epic race it's been. I think you can admit that it's been an absolute barnstorming evening of racing here, and me and Ewan have had the pleasure of sitting here and watching it and commentating on it as well. But guys, as we have done one race at Motorsprt, tomorrow night we've got 3 Radical races at Motorsprt with the Radical Sim Racing. They've got the SR10 again, driving here with the AMs, the Pros and the Americas as well. So make sure you tune in for that one. The first one goes live at 10 to 8 in the evening. So make sure you tune in for that. Don't forget as well, guys, you can hit us up over on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, and yes, the VCO Simmies are up, and I have managed to make it into the final 5 as well, so the link is in chat if you want to go and have a vote for the Simmies. There are some absolute incredible commentators in there as well, so it's going to be a close one, and we won't find out till Boxing Day, but the voting stages closes on the 28th, so if you fancy going and having a vote, that would be absolutely amazing. But all that's left for me to say from now, guys, is from myself and Ewan O'Leary, you all take care. Have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.